When we're designing characters, we design what it feels like to be that character, to embody it. We can bring multi-sensory elements into our work, tell stories through people's fingertips, through scent. We're experimenting people sucking on a straw, and in VR the walls closing in. There's genuine possibilities to create authentic new forms that isn't necessarily cherry picking from film or gaming, it's its own thing. Hello, I'm Robin. I'm one of the co-founders of Marshmallow Laser Feast, director of Sweet Dreams. Oh yeah, of course. We've always been based in Hackney Wick. Travel bag, there's always travel bags at this HQ, lots of the team work remotely. Extraordinary individuals like studio manager Sarah in the back there. The most important part of this environment, of course, is the kitchen. This is where we are nourished. There's a smudge, and smudge is not allowed these delicious grapes. Essentially, the experiential art scene is still in its infancy, and what that means is, while it's finding its feet, essentially the passion fuels a lot of it. There are much easier ways to make a living. This is Nils, and he's testing out very early tests for Chicky Ricky. We've got a dev area here. This is where we test motion capture. It's a kind of virtual production area. It also allows us to test and grade some of the projected works and things like that. We have Chicky Ricky, one of the characters from Sweet Dreams, and we're doing some initial virtual production tests.
Chicky Ricky says 20 is plenty.
So in this example, this is an example of the work that we're showing in Acme in Melbourne at the moment. And this is called Sanctuary of the Unseen Forest. Essentially, lots of the work that we do creates different lenses on the world and reveals the inner systems, for instance, of, in this case, a ceiba tree. So in each of these fly cases, essentially, is another MLF show that we tour. For instance, We Live in an Ocean of Air, a VR experience that follows the out-breath of the human body. There's Evolver, that is a study of the in-breath, and kind of hidden away we've got a laser forest in here that is a large kinetic sculpture with hundreds of musical trees that extend into the sky. In our practice, we've got lots of multi-format works. We cherry pick from film and animation, virtual production. There are design sensibilities, and as artists, you know, we're really interested in sculptural, tactile works, as well as the virtual, and where that physical virtual threshold is. So this headset is one of the first installations that we did in a really unconventional environment, project called In the Eyes of the Animal. We hung these headsets in the Grisdale forest, stumble upon these headsets and see through the sensory perspective of 4 different creatures: a midge, dragonfly, frog and an owl. It introduced us to the importance of tactility and how we can craft a multi-sensory experience around these immersive headsets. The audience become part of the artwork, and they become characters themselves. I'm looking forward to telling you about these characters. So this is exciting. In the case of Sweet Dreams, we're really quite early in the character development. Behind me is the Real Good Chicken Company branding experiments. The face of the Real Good Chicken Company is Chicky Ricky, a food mascot. Our Sweet Dreams production follows Chicky Ricky through an existential crisis. Essentially, they're faced with a rebrand or being ultimately shelved. We've woven our experiential works into a narrative piece that is processional, interactive, and requires audience participation. Yeah, well actually this is the first time we've really authentically applied AI into the production. We're embracing these emerging technologies and using them as production tools. Because it means next year and the year after, there's going to be predictive rendering in stereoscopic. It's just going to totally change everything. It genuinely is going to shift the way that people engage with content, but also create it in the first place. It's quite nice. At the moment we're in a very calm state, but sometimes it's a hive of activity. Depends on what day you rock up. I think make sure that you surround yourselves with like-minded individuals. I think that there's so much relying on codependent activity. My advice is know your specialism and allow yourself to rely on others, even if you are a control freak. It's a fascinating space to be operating in, hugely collaborative, and my role as director a lot of the time is to have my mind blown.